big cities to make it resilient to these things. 2025, it rains for 30 minutes, some people can't leave their houses. It rains for even an hour, people die. What exactly it is about this city and planning, our drainage system and everything, that leads to these conclusions. In Adenta, 4 people died. And the death toll are still being counted. Families have lost so many people that they really consider very close to them, including a 4-year-old who was part of those who lost their lives during or after the downpour, which caused significant damage to properties and, of course, lives. And just as that was being digested, the new mayor of Accra, Kwaku Asante, was out on the streets pushing away persons who were selling directly on the roads in Accra, especially in the central business district. And you would have seen the videos by now, the day 1 and day 2 of that cleaning exercise, and how open the city became for vehicular and human traffic. And so the big conversation today is, how do we sustain the momentum when it comes to dealing with some of these issues with regards to the congestion right here in Accra, with so many people selling in unapproved places? But also, what is it that we can do so that, just like this week, we saw newspaper production from 1960 talking about flooding in Accra, we are not going to see newspaper production in 2070 referencing 2025 and flooding in Ghana with the same things happening. How do we build a resilient Accra? Right here on Ghana Connect after these messages.
The other day, I visited Kwaku at his spunky new office to congratulate him on opening his business. And man, was I impressed. The business is just moving quick. The sales, customers, everything is just working seamlessly. The secret? He said,
it's MTN Business Broadband. In this fast-paced environment, we need fast and reliable internet to support all business types. No laggy online meetings, great download and upload speeds, impeccable business management systems, all inclusive. I mean, you can have it all.
Sharp! I signed on immediately.
To enable your business stay ahead and stay connected, make sure you're signed on to the best internet made just for businesses. MTN Business Broadband. Sign up today on broadband.mtn.com.gh and manage your account on my MTN app. Call 0244 308 111 for more information. We are good together everywhere you go.
Hello, esteemed CEOs. Join us for the highly anticipated 9th Ghana CEO Summit and Expo on 26th May 2025 at Kempinski Hotel, Gold Coast, Accra, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. This biggest business leadership conference offers actionable insight and strategic opportunities for topmost CEOs and policymakers. This year's theme, leading Ghana's economic reset, transforming business and governance for a sustainable futuristic economy. We'll focus on transformational leadership to reset Ghana's economy through sustainability, digital innovation, and governance reforms. Be inspired by the special guest of honor, His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama. Key sessions include CEO presentations, master classes, keynote plenaries, the CEO Excellence Awards, and more. Register today at GhanaCEOSummit.com to secure your spot. For inquiries and sponsorship, contact 0546 391 970 or email info@GhanaCEOSummit.com. Powered by Ghana CEO Network in partnership with Deloitte, PwC, GIPC, SIGA, Media General, and Multimedia Group. Ghana CEO Summit. Be inspired.
Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kindle Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
Wow, Mom, that makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom. And my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema Community 1, opposite Olam SHS, Kumasi KNUST campus, UCC BBC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. Or call us 0302 764101, 764209 or 762792. Visit our website www.kingdomgh.com.
M&C Group is a leading investment holding company with expertise in minerals and food commodity trading, precious minerals refinery, real estate development, and logistics and energy. With individually registered companies, our headquarters is located in Accra, Ghana, with operational offices in Dubai, UAE, Hong Kong, and Guangzhou in China, Johannesburg in South Africa, Virginia in the USA, and Milan, Italy. We connect business markets and drive growth. Trust us to maximize value in every deal. Call us on 0302 551 917 or 0302 551 918 or send us an email mncgroup@mncgroupgh.com. MNC Group, totally reliant.
Cavity protection.
This advert is FDA approved.
Hey, dear Niham sir. And stay soft concentrate fabric softener. I was such it move. Just send it this say be here met na wache. Niham it's na wache. No bia baby some some demoni ni na say. Dear Niham say. Fair quiet, yes, in Biara Association Ontario. Uses Stay Soft and Nihianets Nawache. Nani boss to tap from cry. A fabric softener. A year near says, choose to Stay Soft. No who's so say, no. FDID a dreading crowd to Yatu.
Every mosquito standing run away.
This advert is FDA approved.
Welcome back to Ghana Connect. And before I introduce to you the crack team of panel who are joining me to connect on this important matter, listen to this.
Getting these people out here. So as we enforced the laws yesterday, this morning we got a wind off that they are back again. So we had to come. We got here, we saw that they have resurfaced with a different development with their items to ensure daily routine inspection and enforcement here, and that this place is as clean as it is as at now. Nobody will sell here. That is the truth.
Country hot. So we are the pray for change.
I'm bringing over 1,000 boys to run day and night. A 24-hour economy. I'm gonna start from AMA. I know we are starting from most of the places, but AMA is gonna start 24-hour ticketing, clearing baller, tax force. We're gonna start it in 24 hours. We're gonna work to make sure the city stays alive till morning. So this time is not something that we're gonna do it, just leave it like that.
We say fix the country. You say fix yourself. Aye. Fix the country. We say fix yourself. Hey, tell me who be the country. You be the country.
here to make a mark. I'm not just coming here to sit in the office. I'm here to make sure Accra will work again.
This exercise will continue. So Accra is clean.
Just a little bit of what we've seen in Accra this week. You had the mayor of Accra, Michael Kwaku Asante, saying that he's here to make Accra work again. But it sounds like something we've heard before. But did Accra really work? Or did these people just pour out on the streets and do something for the cameras and then went back to sleep after 3-4 days and then the problems resurrected? Connecting on this important matter, Abdul Karim Ibrahim is written something on social media that did trigger a part of why we want to have this conversation about doing something that will ultimately lead to fixing some of these challenges and not a 9-day wonder. Karim, it's good to have you connect with us.
Thank you very much.
As always, also good to have Carla Olympio, a private legal practitioner. She just returned from South Africa, as I've been made to understand. Carla, it's good to have you connect with us.
Kwaku, it's always a pleasure.
Mo Salah Mandani is currently in Belgrade. I want to know if, with the downpour recently, the place has been flooded or anything of the sort, and what is it they are doing with the congestion in their cities, particularly in Belgrade. Mo, it's good to have you connect with us.
Thank you very much, Kwaku. Always a pleasure to be here. Unfortunately, we do not have such incidents happening in Belgrade. So
interesting. Comfort Echiama is also studying the law and makes a return to the show. Comfort, it's good to have you connect with us.
Hi, Kwaku. It's great to be back here.
Yeah, I like the way you mentioned my name. I'm sure Karim will be jealous, but, well, he can keep that for himself. And Karim, let me start from you. You wrote something on Facebook about how this seemed to be like how mayors and other persons try to get themselves welcome to try and show who really is in charge here. You've seen, and we are going to have this conversation in two. We're going to start from the congestion and then segue into the matters having to do with floods and where the interconnect will come together, because this is all structural in building resilient cities. What were your observations on what the regional, the AMA mayor and other state officials did in Accra in the greater part of this week?
Yeah, well, thank you very much. So for me, I think it was just a reflection on what it is that all of us have seen over and over again. As you have yourself mentioned in your introduction, and as many other people have also alluded to, this is not new. To the extent that even listening to some of the clips that you play from the mayor, I get a sense that what we have with our mayors today in Accra, or has been the case for some time now, is essentially a very modernized version of the land guards problem that we have, in the sense that we don't seem to appreciate our cities like Accra, like Kumasi, for what they actually are. Even though we like to talk big about aspirations of making Accra the cleanest city in Africa, a big lie with no commitment to, we see many other pronouncements among other things like that. Former mayor of Accra, who amongst the most recent mayors is perhaps the most popular in terms of how he went about trying to resolve this particular problem. And that, I mean, Mr. Alfred Okuvandapoy. He's on record to have said around the same time that he was also initiating moves like this, that at the end of the day, what he was envisaging for was this, and to quote him, something that eyes have not seen, neither has it entered into the ears of men, what is about to be seen in Accra. And apart from that, he was also talking very big about this idea of Millennium City and all of that. My point is to say that it is not bad to imagine all of these beautiful things. But if you consistently look at how the mayors have gone about things, my view is we cannot continue to assume that they somehow misunderstand the problem. Because we like to think that when they come and do all of these exuberant things, it is because they don't really appreciate the problem, and that is why they do that. And so over time, the reality will set in and then they will stop. But I don't think that is the case. I don't think they are dummies. I don't think they are stupid people. They've been around for a very, very long time. Oftentimes, the people who get the job to do this particular role, like I mentioned, are some modernized versions of land guards in their own rights, because they have been legitimized to operate in that way. So they have a certain space to operate. And the idea is that we fully appreciate that this is largely a very informal system and economy as we have it. And so when I consider all of that, what I think they really over time are doing is that they come out there and show this bravado and announce their presence so everybody would know that they are here. And it is not for nothing that mayors love to have their names on the lips of everybody. So over time, you would notice that if you go to Circle today, from the phone repairer to the pickpocket to the Kayo person, everybody would know the name. We're used to that. We're seeing similar thing in Kumasi. So for me, I think that is where we are now. I don't accept anymore that they just don't understand the problem. And so they are just, no, I think it is clearly for something else, and we must begin to look at it like that.
Interesting perspectives on this. Carla, I wonder if you share the same views as Karim on this, that a lot of these things is just performative. And so this week we've seen the mayor hit town really hard, cleared all these persons from the pavement. Of course, some of them return today and some of them will return tomorrow. Monday they will, unless there is really sustained effort to keep them at bay. Do you sense or do you share the frustration of Karim also that, listen, these are all really just a ploy to show face that I'm back, I'm in charge, and then we all go back to street, we all go back to sleep, I should say, and then Accra goes back to what we know it to usually be, a very choked part where you can't even meander your way?
Well, that's a difficult question to answer. I have to say that, no, I don't think it's performative. I mean, I don't know if all the Accra mayors have actually been from Accra, but I think this gentleman is, and the former Accra mayor was also from Accra, as I am myself. And I don't think anybody who's from Accra is happy to see the way things are going. I don't think it's a performance. I think that they come in thinking, I'm going to make a change. I think that there is a lot of chaos. I think there are a lot of bad actors. I think that there are a lot of interests that are working against it. And honestly, I just think there's a lot of bad decision making. There's a lot of disorganization. And I'm sorry to say it, but very often you see that in our government state organizations, that kind of chaos. Sometimes you go and you deal with them, whichever one it is, and you just think, what is going on here? Like, there's so many people here. Why is it so disorganized? And you can imagine when it comes to the city, I think that is what it is. And it is, it's really quite heartbreaking for me because aside from the flooding, there is the pollution, there is the chaos on the streets, there is the fact that, there seems to be maybe there's town planning, but are they implementing it? What is the vision? Are we making Accra, we're cutting down trees that are, I don't know, were planted 60 years ago. Well, what is the plan for Accra? I think they come in with good intentions, but whether it's because they don't want to lose votes, whether it's because there's too many people who tell them to drop the plans, whatever, then they stop. But no, I don't think they come in with a performance in mind. I think they have a genuine agenda, which gets derailed very quickly.
That's interesting. Comfort, I want to know, Carla has just laid out the point about how perhaps they start with good intentions and then some way, somehow they just drop it. We've seen stories about Kigali, and those who've been there have seen how that city is well organized. Of course, all the problem with Paul Kagame you may want to talk about, but you can't lose sense of the fact that their city is well laid out and well planned, and some of these issues are properly dealt with. I'm sure you go to Accra a lot. Perhaps one of these days, or as being a law student, if you go to Makola, where your main campus is, and you can't even drive there at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon because the entire area is choked. What do you feel about all of that, especially given the context Karim and Kala have laid out?
Thank you so much, Kwaku. In as much as I don't agree with what my brother Karim said, I would like to side with what my sister Carla just said, because I don't think we all have experienced the problem. We all have seen it, and then we all want to make a change, right? So I feel like the problem really is the stakeholders, because being a mayor, you just want to do the best for the city, right? But then there are other stakeholders. We don't know whether when they return back to their offices, they receive calls that actually drop this, you make us lose votes, right? And I read some of the news bulletins and I watched some of the interviews with the traders and the hawkers. And some of them are saying that we haven't sold anything for the whole day. Even somebody actually said that she has lost weight because she has not been getting money to feed herself and then her family, right? So all these are issues that comes to play. We want to get sustainable development. The problem with Ghana really is our idea of sustainable development. So sustainable development is the ability to meet the needs of the present generation while not compromising the ability to meet those of the generations yet unborn, right? But then in Ghana, we see that we start something and then there are a lot of stakeholders and people are displeased with how we are going about the thing, and then we just drop it. So I think that the mayors, the current mayor and then the former ones, they have all shared this belief of transforming Accra. But then it all boils down to the fact that are people happy about it? So one thing with our political system is we want to make people happy. We always want to make people happy. But then the thing is, aren't we compromising the ability of the future generation to get that kind of sustainable development that we are looking at now? Because we remember what happened, the June 3rd disaster and everything, right? And then this is 2025, like you alluded to, and we are having the same problem. So 2050, people will sit down again and discuss this issue that happened in 2025. And I think it's a bit appalling that we keep on having these issues with no idea of how to sustain our development. So that is my view.
Mo Salam, before you went to Belgrade, you had spent a greater chunk of your life in Ghana. You had seen the disorderliness, you had seen the floods, you'd seen all the problems that this city, Accra in particular, to a certain extent Kumasi and other major cities in Ghana, faced with. And now you live in Belgrade and you don't see that. What kind of comparison do you do in your head, and what do you attribute the chasm between these two scenarios to? Hello, Mo Salam. It would appear I've lost Mo Salam. I'll get back to him. But Karim, then let me come back to you, because we've heard from Kala, we've heard from Echan. They seem to suggest that these people may mean well, but ultimately it may be reason A, B, C, or D that they drop along the line. You don't share that enthusiasm. Why?
Yeah, I think that's rather too optimistic. If I didn't know Carla, at least through this platform, and if I hadn't listened to her in previous discussions, among other things, I would have thought that she was perhaps rather too naive of what it is that our mayors do and what it is that they have consistently been doing. And that is for me also why I think I need to stress my point of departure very clearly, because I mean, these are very good people who typically analyze issues very, very well in my view. So I think here's where they are missing something.
Hello, Kwaku, can you hear me?
I can hear you more, but please hold it there. Let Karim make that point. I'll come back to you.
All right.
Yes. Yeah. So the point is that it cannot be that the very obvious, I mean, stature of the problem, we all seem to know. This current mayor, for instance, if you look into his background a bit, here is a person who's fundamentally coming from the real estate space. He's obviously an indigene of the land and knows very well, even those of us who have only been here for a few decades have been able to properly appreciate that these problems are huge. There are different networks at play. There are different interests at play. There's sometimes political interest among many other things like that. And Accra has a major population problem that we don't seem to have been able to address in correspondence with the level of development that we want and all of that. So the nature of the problem is pretty clear. It cannot therefore still be that they have very good well and they only come in and get shocked. Because if they did not know the extent of this problem before they were even given this problem, then that in itself is a challenge altogether. And for me, given the kinds of people that we see, I do simply believe that they understand what it is that we have on our hands. They just know very well that there's not much that one must do, right? So for instance, we don't know much about what considerations the appointing authorities would always make when they are choosing mayors. If we do consider, for instance, the cosmopolitan nature of cities like Accra and the governance problem that comes with it, among many other things, one would expect that maybe more serious policy considerations will go into the appointment of people, right? And if that were right, then the expectation also would be that the people that we are at least appointing into these roles have some considerable appreciation of the problem. Across all of these periods that we have been talking about, has anybody seen any comprehensive policy plan that is workable that we have used, right? So it seems to me that it is very clear that people take a very different view. And that's why I think that this is not necessarily a modernized land guard version of things, right? Because it is not very different from the entire political economy as we have it. It's a rent-seeking enterprise. It's about patronage. It's about winner takes all and giving things to people to do. There's no serious expectation of very innovative outcomes. And so we cannot expect that very differently from Accra or from Kumasi. And from everything that we see, for me, I think it is pretty consistent with this view that we don't take this problem very seriously. And I do also think that just about anybody at all, if you ask them on the street what they would want to do for Accra, would have some very nice, beautiful ideas. But the people who are in these roles, we must judge them on the account of the enormity of the problem that we have and demand of them far more than having very positive aspirations for Accra. I do not think really that is what we are attempting to resolve here at all. Even though I share in the general view that people have that there's a problem that we need to address, I don't think that the solutions as we are seeing from them suggest in any way that they are applying any wisdom at all that they have learned from all of these years that we have failed to resolve this problem over and over again.
Mosalam, the question I was asking you was the fact that you had lived in Ghana prior to you relocating to Belgrade, of course, for academic purposes and other reasons. And you've seen how things are done there, you've seen how things are done here. You've lived in the chaos of here and you lived in the order of Belgrade. I wonder the chasm you draw between the two worlds.
Thank you very much, Kwaku. Like I was saying, this is an interesting question. Before I go into that, I remember a couple of times when I was in Ghana, I was late to your studios a couple of times due to the congestion on the roads and the heavy traffic I had to go through. So this just reminded me of how it used to be. But if you look at what is happening in Ghana and probably what is happening here, there are two things. For me, coming from a policy perspective, what I think is a problem is the structure is not there. One is our system in Ghana is overly partisan. We don't have a sustainable government. We don't have a government that is stable enough to be able to take bold solutions, bold decisions that would effect, serious reforms. That is one problem. And also, if you look at decongestion exercises, you need to have a plan before you come out. I remember even the Tamil Metropolitan Assembly is also planning to do a decongestion exercise. And the current mayor, I watched him on Sagani TV when he was speaking, and he said that people are pushing him to come out and do a decongestion exercise in the Tamil Metropolitan Assembly. And what he said was that we've seen it many times. Many mayors have done that, including the famous Musa Superior, who was one of the most popular mayors in Ghana from 2017. And he said that before you come out to do a decongestion exercise, like Abdul Karim rightly mentioned, you need to have a plan in place. You can't just come out to do something and go back, and within a week, it's like nothing has happened. So if you don't have a plan, a relocation plan is one. And what they do year in, year out is that they do this without a relocation plan. And so all the people that they clear eventually comes back to the same places. And so you need a plan to ensure that what you are going to do is sustainable. But if you look at, for example, like Belgrade here, the city is well planned in such a way that there's a stable government in place. The government does not care about votes, whether you're going to vote for him or not. When I've been here, they've cleared a lot of markets to make room for other infrastructure developments, for roads and for other expansions. And people can demonstrate all they want. The government simply does not care. You see, so if you don't have that kind of stable government who do not, probably the interest that will play when it comes to politics in terms of votes, in terms of the MP is going to lose, the government in power may become unpopular, we're going to continue to have some of these problems. One, because our system is overly partisan and divisive. And that is one of the major problems we are facing in Africa as a whole, partisan politics. That is why we cannot have a sustainable development plan that every political party will adhere to. And so if you look at the dichotomy between Ghana and perhaps Serbia, stable governance is a problem, and excessive partisan politics is the two things I see that gives a bit of difference between what is practiced in Ghana and what is here. And Belgrade is one of the beautiful cities in Europe because they call it the White City. It's well planned and it's lighting everywhere. In fact, they wash the roads here every night. You can imagine. So the difference is basically about the idea of stable governance and also the overly partisan nature of our politics.
Carla, I wonder what you think about the point Comfort made earlier. Comfort made earlier on about the rent seeking and patronage with Ghanaian society. So these are people who are going out there and thinking of the next election, and they're also thinking perhaps what will be the blowback to the government that I serve and the president that appointed me. Because I do recall when, and this is a question, I think when Karim comes again, I want to hear from him on that also. Recently, when they inaugurated the new flower pot interchange, a certain lady selling coconut was under there. The regional minister at the time did go in there in a bulldozer fashion, just removed her from the place, destroyed her wares and all that. And people were quite enraged about that. People will say that these are people who don't have anywhere to go. These are the places where they can go and make ends meet. And so you have to look at your development. You need to know that you are Ghana, you're not New York. And so you can't have New York City in a country where the poverty levels as what we have here. I wonder what you make of that.
So I absolutely do agree with Comfort that it is, various interests, which is why I said that I do believe they come in with good intentions. I know Abdul Karim thinks that is naive, and maybe it is. Who knows? Maybe they don't come in with good intentions, but that is what I see. And I absolutely do believe that they come in with good intentions, but because of elections and whatever. I mean, I was listening to Joy, was it 2 or 3 weeks ago, when the mayor announced he was going to do this. And the headline was that the street hawkers had vowed that nobody would move them. I mean, and so the point being, and I remember very well that lady who went and set up her stand there. The fact is, you mentioned New York. The fact is, to do things like this takes a certain level of ruthlessness, right? I mean, earlier on, Kwaku, you mentioned Paul Kagame. You look at a place like Singapore, even London at some point was notoriously polluted, dirty, chaotic, and they changed it. New York, when it comes to town planning, there are all kinds of stories about how, I think, Central Park in New York, I think was a settlement of Black people where they decided they were going to bulldoze it. So you know what? There is, let's leave the racism issues aside, but there is a certain level of ruthlessness you need to implement a plan. You have to say, I'm going to ignore the voices. This is the vision. This is a good plan. And you need everybody behind you. So if the top leadership is not wholly behind you, if there are all kinds of interests, and if there's short-sightedness, and I'm sorry to say, my people, Ghana, too often there's short-sightedness in the way we operate. Because who is this helping? I mean, and for people to say that they have nowhere else to go, a lot of these people, of course, they have somewhere to go. They came from somewhere to where they are today. So yes, you should give them an alternative. Yes, you should find somewhere for them to go. But if this thing that they're doing at the place that they're doing it is ultimately harming all of us, why are we going with it? And that's why, I think Abdul Karim said something like, you speak to everybody on the street and they have a good vision for Ghana. No, they don't. They don't. There's a lot of people who just want to do what they want to do. They don't really care what the vision is. They're just thinking about tomorrow. They're just thinking about having their own way. And yes, your citizens should have a way. But I remember learning this at some point in secondary school when I think I was about 17. Some friends of mine and I were organizing something, and we had like 20 of our peers, and we're trying to organize a play or something, and we were listening to everybody's voice, and nothing was getting done. Eventually, the leadership has to say, you know what, I'm sorry. We cannot take everybody's feelings into account. We have to say, this is the vision, this is the plan, this is the way forward. And we are not going to let, unruliness derail us. But for some reason, they always do. And that ultimately is the problem. We will never, if we do not apply that mindset that, look, somebody has to come in with an iron fist and change things, it will not change. And one day the people will appreciate, but they will not appreciate it at the moment. And that's the fact. And we have to be tough.
Comfort, I wonder what you think about Carla's prognosis of the challenge and the solution preferred. That, listen, we need to be a little bit ruthless in dealing with some of these issues to be able to get to the other end.
Yes, I very much do agree with her, because there is a saying that Rome was not built in a day, right? And now it seems as if all the great cities we know, all the developed countries, it had to take them a certain degree of ruthlessness, just like my sister said, to get to where they are, right? So the problem in Ghana is that we are in the habit of caressing the wound. We don't really treat it. So we caress the wound, we play around it, and then by the time we realize, it has become cancerous and it's killing all of us. So to solve this issue, I think we just need somebody who will come in with an iron fist, like she's saying, to take over the helm of affairs, like bring a certain sense of seriousness in whatever we do. Because, we have bylaws. The Accra Metropolitan Assembly works with bylaws. We even have the road traffic regulations. I was happy when you brought in the how the Ghana School of Law is situated, where it is situated right now. So what I used to ask my friends was that, so who built Ghana School of Law in the center of Makwala Market? And I'm from Kumasi, so I didn't know the history. So they told me that the time they built the school, the place was not like this. And I was surprised. Because, to get to that school, Ghana School of Law, the premier Ghana School of Law that trains lawyers in this country, to get there, the way you would have struggled, those of us without cars, even those without cars, it's nothing good to write home about. Because I think me without a car, I can just maneuver my way there. But I remember when we're doing our induction, and then we had to go there, and me in my beautiful black suit and white shirt, and this trader nearly spilled something on me. I was just devastated.
Oh no.
So I think this whole issue of street hawking, and then these hawkers taking over our roads, and the congestion in Accra, we have to get to the root. We have to treat the wound. Because what I foresee, I don't know, but it's not only in Accra. In Kumasi, I went home recently and I told my mother that, man, the KJTR that I know is not the KJTR that is there right now. The place was smelly. You won't even get a place to pass, and these pickpockets are all over. So I think we just need a nationwide sanitization. Yeah.
Karim, talking about a little bit of ruthlessness and iron fist, we know what the Kumasi mayor decided to do. He said he'll beat people up. And we know the public backlash. Of course, beating people up is not the kind of ruthlessness Carla and others are suggesting. That you need to go out there and do what is right, not suggest that you go and beat people up.
But are you sure?
That is really extrajudicial. But yeah, that's what he suggested. He suggested that he's going to beat people up. And he says if you...
Are you sure that we don't agree?
Well, people like Karim and Cole do not agree. They really lambasted the man until he came out to apologize. And so, Karim, here we are. One bread say that we need our city authorities to act tough. The one guy
is Karim an enemy of progress?
Well, Karim, you have to answer for yourself.
Yeah. So yeah. Today I'm seeing a very different color, so it's a very interesting but I think that first of all, it is incorrect that they have not already been using violence and force of the state and all of that. Again, it's for me, that's why I think we need to pause a bit and reflect over this problem again, because nearly every single thing that we point to as necessary to sort of address this problem in a very conventional way has already been in play and has consistently been in play for a very long time. So, for instance, as everybody knows, at every point in time when we have attempted decongestion, either in urban slums or at our marketplaces, at our central business district and all of that, we've always used force. In the most recent one, we have still used force. We have seen how some of the traders around Circle, for instance, got into some altercation, where how other people's shackles and all of those things were destroyed and all. We hear everything that people are saying, but I think we also forget something. We forget that this is a city that has its population, I mean, nearly or perhaps even more than 60% of its population in very poorly planned and overcrowded housing conditions. This is backed by work done by the Africa Cities Consortium and many other people, including our very own from the University of Ghana's Business School, among other things, right? We're looking at a city considering about 265 informal settlements all within Accra, right? So the vast majority of our problems are very informal in the way that they are. And that is why a reflection of a space problem, a market problem, would be very evident in a very informal sense in what we are now describing in this discourse as chaos and all of those things. It is also not for nothing that majority of the people who often are affected by these kinds of approaches to resolving our problems are women, largely because they have, I mean, in greater part been pushed into this informal space and all of that. So my point is that, of course, nobody should be selling in the road. Of course, nobody should be selling on the pedestrian walkway. Of course, there are places that have been congested that we will do ourselves very good by opening up the spaces, even for those who are participating in the trade by themselves. But the point that we need to also appreciate is that this is a symptom of a city that we have created, right? So people move into certain enterprises, certain spaces to do certain enterprises because those are the things that make economic sense. So when we want to resolve those problems, we need to demand of the leadership, right? And say from President John Dramani Mahama, who has appointed someone now to be in this role, that we must have someone who demonstrates a clear plan that they can work with, one that many of us can buy into, right? The approach where they enter into this fray with an announcement of the authority and power that they have come and they can sack everybody, it just doesn't work. You see, we have a problem with people being on the streets and Circle and all of that, people doing drugs and all. If we don't have any commensurate policy that attempts to address those problems from those other spaces, and all that you think you can do is that you would mount there with security personnel wearing all kinds of uniform and sack everybody away, I think you would achieve some momentary success, as we have consistently seen. But days after, people will be back. And so you see, because they are human beings, you can't go and kill all of them also. So clearly, the point that I'm basically I want to get all of us to really reflect again on is to perhaps embrace the more difficult aspect of this problem, and to say that when you take security people to Circle, to Accra, to Kantamanto, and whip everybody, you need to be able to then maintain that consistently for a reasonable amount of time. That would also mean, for instance, that because you use force to be able to enforce all of this, you need security personnel stationed at all material times to be able to do this. That is only going to address the aesthetic dimension of things, where you are successfully able to displace the people. What that means for them, nobody knows. Of course, I've heard this current mayor make a point about the fact that they are going to relocate some of the traders who will be affected to another place and all. My view would be that you start resolving this problem from that end, instead of going about and sacking people, because don't forget also that people's relationship with the state is one built on distrust over many, many years, right, of exclusion and all of that. So the average person who has a smallest unit around Circle selling would never believe the Accra mayor when they tell them that they are going to find them a place somewhere else, right? So it's either we confront the problem better, more intelligently than we have done in the past, or assume that we can just simply wash everybody away and the problem will not come back. We'll keep coming back to it the way that we have kept coming back to it. And that, for me, is where I stand now currently on this problem, Kwaku.
More on them. So we have been doing our own digging here. For instance, since 2005, there have been 10 major decongestion exercises in Accra alone. Accra, mainly in Accra, 10. And all of that, Rambo style, led by mayors, they come, they do that, it never really worked. This mayor, for instance, talking about allowing, if it has to come to that, 2 days of street selling. 2 days you can come and sell whichever part of the road you want. After that, please don't come again. Then feeds back into the matters with floods. I mean, it's rain in parts of Accra. I'm sure people are jittery and wondering what exactly is going to happen if it rains overnight. Are we going to be able to go out there tomorrow and all that? And you realize fixing some of these issues is very basic. I realized 2 weeks ago when Bus Stop Boys did the kind of cleaning they did around Legon, the University of Ghana Sports Stadium area, where they just cleared the gutters and allowed the rain pass. It did rain quite heavily a couple of days, and it didn't flood. That place didn't get flooded up until the gutters got choked again, and then it rained 2-3 days ago, and the whole place really just got flooded. And up until now, there's still part of the rain and the flash floods, still in the road. So it appears the problem is, and we know the problem, we seem to know what the solution may be, but we never seem ready to do that. And right after your point, I'll bring in James Aveji, who's been covering this for us. You can make a point, and then we'll conclude the conversation.
Okay, so Kwaku, you see, our problem is multifaceted. So let me give an example. I listened to Karim say a lot of things, but you have to do a comparative analysis of what is happening. The Accra situation is not in isolation. So let me give you an example. Tamale, for instance, is also a very congested city, especially the metropolis. Look, they built satellite markets, not one, not two, about 3 satellite markets to relocate some of the people who are on the road selling to those markets. Very big markets, not far away from the main central market. These same people refused to sell at that market. They came back to the road. It was a major problem. The mayor was frustrated. They cleared everyone. They sent them to, in fact, the satellite markets were free. It was a very nice place, very open, road networks and everything. They refused to sell at that market. So it is not about whether or not there's an alternative place for these people to go to. Sometimes there have been alternative places for these people to go to. Another issue is that our own problems are caused by our own attitudes. Look, if you've been to the markets and you are honest with yourself, what you realize is that some of these stores that you have are extended onto the road. So you see someone with a clothing shop. That same person extends the shop onto the road and puts a table or a tent, right and on the walkway. Even the same person has about 3-4 people who pick clothes from her shop and be selling on the road. Now, what do you mean by when you sack those people, they don't know where to go? The store is already there. They put the things back in the store, and people will go.
So in that case, there's no problem then.
There's no problem then.
So I think you need to stay on what the problem is, because if it's people having shops already and extending it, I'm sure you know how that could be dealt with. I think the majority of the challenge often is with those who do not have space, as in the sense of very legitimate space. I think that's usually where the challenge is.
I agree with that, but I'm saying that in some places where they have actually, brought, alternative solutions to move people, the people don't want to be moved. And that's the example I'm giving. Look, when Van der Poel did the demolition, the demolition was supposed to create another place for people to be able to move in there, an organized place. Our own people came out to demonstrate against that. So that's what I'm saying. The problem has to do with attitude and also with planning. Sometimes they come out and do these demolition exercises or decongestion exercises without a plan. Like this mayor is struggling to come up with a plan. What do you mean by they can come and sell 2 days and go back? It is not sustainable. You get it? So what I think is, it is not about brute force. It's about planning. It's about someone who can actually do the job without recourse to the consequences, the political consequences. And until we come to the realization that all our problems in the country is caused by the excessive partisanship, we are never going to go anywhere.
We're not getting out of the woods until we recognize that. Mo Salam, hold it there for me. I'll come back and then hear from all 4 of you. But James Aveji covered all this for us in the last 3-4 days here in Accra. He has some observations to make. James, make it quite brief for me. But I wonder what you saw yourself, and whether from what you saw and what you've heard from the traders themselves, this will work. Or next week, certainly, we're going to send you back there and you're going to report that, listen, the guys are back, and Accra is like it was before Mayor Kwaku Asante and his guys went there.
Kwaku, I don't know where I'll start from, but I think looking at the things I've seen in the last 4 days from Tuesday to today, I have a trust that this must succeed. But at the same time, I'm afraid that it may not. It must succeed because a number of people have imposed their trust in this mayor and are happy with what he's doing. For instance, some of the traders we spoke with in the last few days have expressed profound happiness about what he's doing and how the streets are looking. Sanity is brought back to the streets. Cars are flowing in the central business district, which is synonymous to, chaos and disorder we've seen over the years. When the mayor visited the government on Wednesday, he also indicated his delight in what is happening, pledged to give all the support. In fact, he stated that one of these days he may hit the streets himself in order to bring Accra back to the glory it used to be. In his heydays as a young man, things they've seen in Accra. And so it tells you the goodwill of both traders, the general public, pedestrians and motorists who use the route across the city. They are imposing in this mayor to succeed in this. But the reason why I fear it may not succeed or this may not last long is I don't see a better strategy beyond the street engagement, the drawing of, the red marking of pavement. Don't go beyond this. We are giving you 2 days to trade in the course of the week to come back to the street to trade and then go back in 5 days, come back in 2 days. I am not too sure this strategy will succeed looking at the nature of people who are on the road. Now, on Wednesday, when the massive day congestion happened at the now popular second New Plus bus stop, when the spotters were removed behind that bus stop, I knew for some reason that these people would come back because when they were removed from there, they packed their things just across the street. And so I asked the question, how do you prevent them from coming back? And the promise was that they were going to station some security officials to make sure they do not come back. And so Thursday morning, when we went and they were organizing themselves, I just thought that I should check on this particular place. And lo and behold, my fear was confirmed. The people were back.
People were back. They were back. They were back. I mean, just like you said, you did expect that they will be back, and they were indeed back. And they will be there. This evening, they'll be there on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, they'll be there. I'm sure you go back. We'll go and see the people selling tomato, onion right in front of Kimbo, and the same things that we do, and we never get to fix it. So, Comfort, are you optimistic that we will get to fix some of these problems with congestion in the city, with the little things that leads to all these things? Because some of these things are pretty basic things that we need to do to get them right. Are you confident we'll get it right? Or you don't share in the optimism? 2050, Papa Ni and Co will be big guys, and then they'll be in charge, and then the same problems.
Okay, for me, I'm very optimistic. But then I feel like if we go by Karim's ideas, then we wouldn't get to where we want to be. Me, I subscribe to force. We should use force to get things. Yes, we should use force to get things done. Honestly, I always ask myself how places like Kigali, Rwanda, these people had to live through this genocide, like crazy things happen. South Africa, apartheid. In Ghana, what do we have? It was small coup d'etats that we had. I mean, I didn't live through that, but yes. But these people have been able to go beyond that. And then they have built the city, the country they want. So I think in Ghana, we can do same. We can do better. We can really, really do better.
Carla,
So,
let me hear from you quite briefly, then Karim.
Sorry. Look, Kweku, let's be real. Abdul Karim, I understand what he's saying. He doesn't want us to be cruel to people. But the fact is, you cannot get things done by listening to how many people are we in Ghana? 30 million different people and what they want. You have to make it happen. You have to apply force. Look, what shocks me, look at how people are idolizing this gentleman in Burkina Faso. And I'm always like, hey, I mean, is that what we want to do? Look at how when they have polls nowadays, there's more and more Ghanaians, especially Ghanaians under 30, who are thinking that they want a military ruler. The same people who, when you tell them to move from here, they'll come back the next day. In other words, Ghanaians, when it comes down to it, want somebody to compel them to do what has to be done. And that is the only way. There is nowhere. You talk about South Africa, unfortunately, due to their history, you know, people were compelled to do things. And they have their problems for sure. They're not perfect. But a lot of the discipline comes from that. Paul Kagame. Paul Kagame is not somebody that, he'll tell you that you have to move here and then you're back the next day and he's just going to take it. Where in the world does it work that way? It will not work. And it is discipline. Let's not call it like it's a dictatorship. Discipline. And all those people who are admiring and looking for military dictators, we don't need a military dictator. What we need is somebody to enforce, the law.
So Karim, what Kala and Comfort and everybody saying that you have the bylaws. If you go there, you have to hold people and then just push them aside a little, not beating them up like the Kumasi Mayor suggested, lashing them like there were some school kids, which is even really outlawed.
You remember Singapore, go and drop chewing gum on the road and be fun. They will lash you.
But also I think these are the lowest hanging fruits. I think, Kweku, if you put me in this job and allow me to use the security in the way that the mayors do, I think I could also sack people from the street. But the
famous last words, Abdul Karim, I'm waiting to see that day.
Question is, how does that resolve the problem that we have? And for me, I don't think I've made an entirely moral argument at all, an exclusively moral argument at all. I think it really goes to the policy. And we need to demand more from our policy actors. You see, in all of these things, what we are granting them is the power and the easy power to use force to drive people away. We haven't demanded
to use force
measure.
To enforce a plan, a vision.
But that's not a plan. It's not a plan to just simply take their forces and go sack people from occupy illegitimate spaces. That's not really a plan. That's just sacking them from that space. Pretty much like what we did during COVID,
one
right?
aspect of it. How do you know he doesn't have a plan? How do you know there's not a plan that he's implementing?
But how is it not? How are you so confident that after all that you have seen, there's still a plan that you have not seen, but already they have started just sacking people? I am responding to what we have consistently seen about the easiest way when they start with this and it doesn't end anywhere. So you can't be so optimistic to assume that somehow this time around something is going to change. Carl, I don't know.
I think we could go on and on. I think it's getting very interesting and getting exciting about what exactly the solution to this is. And we are in the rainy season, so I promise you we are going to be back here on Ghana Connect on this conversation about all the things that we need to do. I mean, this city's challenge with congestion and flooding, I mean, they are not new, they are well documented, and they are growing more and more urgent. Traders are taking over the streets. The road is turning into a river. The road to Kasua, sometimes people can't even come to work when there's a slight rain. The question is, are we listening? And what exactly are going to be the lasting solutions to fix these problems and make Accra a livable city? That's why we leave the conversation tonight on Ghana Connect. But it doesn't end here. As you know, you can continue. Let's keep talking. Let's keep asking the hard questions. And most importantly, let's keep holding the system to account so that these basic issues will all be fixed. My name is Kwaku Asante. Thank you very much. Abdul Karim Ibrahim, Mo Andani. I'm sorry I couldn't give you another word. Carla Olympio and Comfort Echama Entry. Thank you all for listening. Andy Dusty is up next with the library, but don't miss News File tomorrow, 9 a.m. to 12 noon. The CJ impeachment process, probing the twists and turns, Article 71 pay and pegs. Public outrage justified. And then Accra floods in, spending for zero results. We are going to continue this part of the conversation on News File tomorrow. My name is Kwaku Asante. I'll see you again, same time next week. Andy Dusty is up next with the library. I saw him the last time. I was begging him. He needs to give us first 30 minutes on that Arcade, something at least, so that we can all celebrate what a music legend that man was. I'll see you again same time next week.